Hey guys, welcome back, and let's do Lee Wen first, since it's Lee Wen. After being hospitalised for gastritis, I learned from Mr. Wen he never had blamed me for the photo incident. He and I were able to go back to how things were, like nothing had happened. Occasionally some fools in school would still gossip about us, but I'd learned to stop caring and pretend not to hear them at all. As Gao Kao kept getting closer and closer, everyone, including those gossiping idiots, said focus on the exam. Even my life had turned into a constant migration between classroom and home. I barely even went to a tennis court anymore. Before we knew it, the final simulation exam was upon us. A sense of anxiety filled the entire school. Rumour had it that anyone screwed up on the simulation exam, and he or she would be required to stay in school for an intensive study session. Till 2 days before Gaokao. It was lunch break. Everyone was sitting in their own seats, trying to study for the last time. My phone suddenly buzzed. A text from Jing. Breaking news! Mr. Wen resigned last week. Sob. Couldn't believe my eyes and turned to look around at her. She made a sad face. How could it be? The art class has been cancelled for the last 2 weeks. I'd also been hitting the books, so I didn't realise he indeed hadn't seen him for a while. When I go back to my balcony and the lights had always been off in his apartment, I thought he'd just simply go to bed early. The exam began in the afternoon. I looked at the paper in my hand, but all I could see was just random gibberish that was jumping all over the place. What I could think about was Mr. Wen's resignation. Jimmy was really going at it. All of his papers were hanging off the side of his desk. A thought never occurred to me, it appeared in my head. Should I just copy it? I'd never cheated in my entire life. But if I didn't, I would have to stay in detention for an extra study session after school. I didn't want to stay, I just wanted to go back home as soon as I could. I took a peek at Miss Yang. She seemed to be lost in her own thoughts. I made up my mind and decided to copy Jimmy's answers. I never knew that Jim was such a genius. No one had paid much attention to him. I was writing down his answers when I felt a tap on my shoulder. Oh no, I've been caught. A note had been left on my desk asking me to go to a tutoring room after school. After school, Miss Yang met me in the tutoring room. She said nothing about cheating, she only asked me to stay for study sessions. During sessions, I kept staring at my phone, hoping I would respond to my messages. Nothing. It was 11 PM when I got home. I knocked on his door softly, no response. I went checking his balcony, the lights were off. I sat on the floor with my back into the door, thinking about what I would be able to hear him come back in the middle of the night. 1, 2, it began raining. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. It was almost morning. What shall I do if I still couldn't find him tomorrow? I had a bad feeling. Would I never be able to see him again? This was the last simulation exam I'll be in charge of this year, and Gaokao, the real one, will be coming up next with my students. I intentionally let out a sigh upon realising this. The most stressful time of being a head teacher was in my senior year. Time was always tight and my job was difficult. To make things worse, I sat to watch all those pubescent and rebellious teenagers. Some might be over 18, they're mentally just kids. Back in my school days, I'd heard about so-called young love. I'd barely seen any student couples. Nowadays, student couples aren't something worth mentioning. Love triangles, gay relationships, and teacher-student relationships. All kinds of stuff can happen nowadays. I suppose they're already too old kids these days. I wish for right now was them to graduate as I planned, and leave me a decent graduation rate. To go and make a good vacation after exam. The exam has been handed out and everyone was ready to begin. The bell rang, I walked around the classroom, sat back on a chair next to a lectern. Been having trouble standing for too long these days. Maybe been tired, or maybe just a natural part of getting older. The room set up stuffy. The cicadas at the window were very noisy. Looked outside the window, lost in thoughts. Someone coughed loudly. Ron was pulled back. Lee Wen looked a little nervous, her eyes were drifting all over the place. Very few students ever realised how good the view was from up here. I didn't go towards her directly, instead I walked out of the classroom and circled behind her through the door in the back. I realised she was copying Jimmy's answers. I left a note. I told Lee Wen to come and meet me in the tutoring room after school. I intended to talk to her about her cheating. I had no intention of reporting it to a school. I've been teaching her since freshman year in middle school. She's been through a lot, so I'd always looked out for her. When her grades were never her best, her character was beyond reproach. She's not that kind of student. She hadn't arrived yet, stood in front of a window watching the clouds gathering over the track field. It might rain tonight. Remember last time I'd seen W. It also been raining that evening. He asked me to meet him in a coffee shop. He told me he'd gone in cancer and might not have much longer to live. He decided to resign from school and leave Beijing. Maybe in the country. At least for a while, anyway. He asked me to keep it a secret and, if possible, take care of relevant matters while he was gone. I didn't know what else to say. I just asked him what he was going to do. I contacted the doctor. I knew and asked him if there was any other feasible treatment plans. Later he told me he had other things to take care of and said goodbye. I watched quietly as he walked away. As soon as he walked out of the coffee shop, I buried my head on a table and cried. I'd always been so self-righteous and self-centered. I wanted to think and do everything for him, and yet I never thought about asking him what he wanted me to do. That's why I had to watch him leave over and over again. When we were kids, our families lived next to each other. We'd known each other for as long as I can remember. He was always playing alone in kindergarten. He was never bullied or isolated or anything like that. He was just too smart and too different compared to other kids. We'd gone to the same elementary school and same high school and same college. No matter where we were, it was always best what I did. He'd always been so proud to be his best friend. We called each other just by our one-letter nicknames. He was W, I was Y. After he graduated from college, he went to study abroad and started working. I really wanted to go with him. I didn't feel we were close enough to approach this idea. So we parted ways. We began to lose touch once he met his girlfriend abroad. It was many years later when we finally met again. He lost his fiancée, his spirit had gone with her. His life had become a mess. I never suggested he come teach at my school. When he finally agreed to come, I was so happy. Something blossomed again in my heart. However, nothing more happened between us. We could be childhood friends. We could talk about almost anything with each other. We could never become more than friends. I never had the courage to tell him how he felt or how I always felt. I was afraid whatever I did, it would cost us our current relationship. I just wanted to stay beside him, talk to him and laugh with him. Years had gone by. About 3 years were a spell, but I'd hidden inside my heart, getting buried deeper and deeper. But it never lost its power. It was getting harder and harder for me to speak those words out loud. I felt myself slowly turning into another fool. I couldn't help myself. The when had finally come. I didn't ask her a reason for cheating. I just told her to come to a group study session. No matter why she cheated, the study session could only help. But I suddenly realised I was being my usual self again. I was making decisions for her. I was asking about it. I could have simply asked her to tell me why she cheated. I suppose I couldn't change myself, right? Oh, those are two, are they? Let's try that. I took a peek at Miss Yang. She was looking out the window, seemed to be lost in her own thoughts. What was she thinking about? Could it also be about Mr. Wen's resignation? Why was I thinking about that? I was such an idiot. I stared at the paper as hard as I could. Still couldn't focus. How pathetic. What should I do? If only was something to help me focus on my exam. Time for exam ran out, but I could always see myself sitting a mandatory study session. I left a note. After school, Miss Yang came into the tutoring room as expected. Anything I can help you with? Well, Miss Yang, do you know why Mr. Wen resigned? Miss Yang gave me a look. I thought you were about to ask me a grade this time. Take a good look at your own paper. Picked up. It was a disaster. I just don't know what's going through your kid's mind these days. She gave me quite a tongue lashing. That sucked. My mind came back from wandering. A bell signalled the ending exam. Everything had gone well. An open left my desk asking me to go to a tutoring room after school. After school, I came to a tutoring room as Lee Wen had asked. I knew many senior students were going through a lot of pressure. There were probably less than 10 students who would be willing to talk to their teachers about it. Nevertheless, I was thrilled that Lee Wen had come looking for me. However, she was not there to discuss a pressure exam or going to college. Instead, she asked me about W's abrupt resignation. I was a little unprepared, but I still remembered my promise to him. Clearing my thoughts, took out my test from today and showed it to her. I had to let her know that Gao Kao was right upon us, the only thing that mattered right now. She should not be thinking anything else. Definitely not that. Her face turned red. White and red again. Still feel awkwardness in the air after she left the room. I knew I might be breaking her heart, but I had to do it. W would have done the same. I'm not going to give you a temptation to cheat. So you need something to... My mind came back from wandering, a bell signalling the end of the exam. Okay. Since Gao Kao was always upon us, as a head teacher, I decided to give him some tough love. However, no matter how hard I scolded her, she was barely paying attention. Only occasionally yes and She did not like she was listening at all, not to mention self-reflecting. I suppose I shouldn't go overboard either. I figured what I had said what I had to say. Send her back to a group study session. I shouldn't wind her up too tightly. Let's try this. A thought that had never occurred to me appeared in my head. Should I just copy it? But I've never cheated in my life. But if I didn't, I wouldn't have to stay in detention from extra study sessions. I didn't want to stay, I just want to go back home. Took a peek at Miss Yang, seemed to be lost in her own thoughts. Made up my mind, decided to copy Jimmy's answers. I never knew Jim was such a genius. Time for exam soon ran out. I took another exercise book after the exam. My mind wasn't in it. I left a note. After school, Miss Yang came into the tutoring room as expected. I confessed to her about everything involving cheating in the exam. She crossed her arms in front of her and stared into my eyes. Why did you do it? Because I couldn't solve any of her problems. She kept staring at me with an even more intense look. It wasn't a hard exam, at least not for you. I couldn't focus. I have somewhere I had to be tonight. I was worried about having to stay for study sessions. I couldn't think of any convincing lies on the spot, so I told Miss Yang the truth about everything. About why I couldn't solve her problems, about why I was unwilling to stay after school. Even the truth about him. Fell into silence when I finished. I grabbed my own skirt tightly, lowered my head, and I couldn't look her in the eye. Aren't you neighbours? You should be able to see him any time you want, right? I just have a feeling that I must see him as soon as I can, otherwise I might... No idea what I was talking about, but Miss Yang laughed. She was laughing, but her tears were coming out of her eyes. Kids these days, I'm really envious of you, you know what? I guess. You could call it 6th sense. Mr. Wen. He's got cancer. Miss Yang wiped away her tears. Stomach cancer, late stage. Just when my mind had come back from wandering, a bell signalled the exam. Everything had gone well. A neighbour left my desk, asked me to go to a tutoring room. After school, I came to a room, as Lee Wen had asked. I knew my senior students were going through a lot of pressure. There were probably less than 10 students be willing to talk to their teachers about it. Nevertheless, I was thrilled that Lee Wen came looking for me. We were chatting casually about a day's test when she suddenly started crying. She was sobbing when she told me she had cheated. What surprised me most was the reason. I was at a loss. Once upon a time, I might have had the same honesty and courage she had. At some point, I turned into this middle-aged woman who would be gossiping about other people in the office. I knew it was a waste of time. I knew his fake compliments would kept telling each other meant absolutely nothing. But I'd still locked myself in his mundane life, day after day. That day, Lee Wen and I talked so much that we were truly best friends. About cheating, about Gaokao, about W. Sorry, W. I broke my promise. There's a lot of options here. What would it change if you leave a note? Should I copy it? I never cheated in my life. But if I didn't, I'd stay in detention work your study sessions. Okay. So I did exceptionally well this time and encouraged me to keep it up. You told me if I needed any advice. Okay. I sent him some more text, no response. Just when my mind came back from wondering, a bell signalled me a new exam was rung. Everything had gone well. I left a note. Asked Lee Wen to come to meet me in my tutoring room. I knew many senior students were going through a lot of pressure. There were probably less than 10 students willing to talk to it about it. Greet each other, told she did very well, and to keep it up. Barely paying any attention though, she seemed distracted and she wasn't following conversation. That kid, she didn't have to worry me well, did she? Well, W, I'll make sure I keep my promise. We've both got rank A's, but we can do better than that. Okay, that one is that one. Let's do all the... Oh. Took a peek at Miss Yang and she was staring right back at me. So startled I almost jumped. I suddenly couldn't understand her questions. Thank goodness. Whatever. I need to finish the exam first before worrying about anything else. If I screw this up, I won't be able to go anywhere after school. No, but left at my desk asked me to go to a tutoring room. Okay, so you don't need any help, apparently. Felt a little strange. It was too late when I got home. Knocked on his door softly, no response. She was looking back at me too. She should be focusing on her tests. I shook my head and signalled to get back to her test. She lowered her head. Half an hour later, the exam was over. Left a note. Interesting. Well, I'll make sure to keep my promise. How are we doing in terms of things? I'm going to try and swap the notes over. Yeah, it does actually change your notes. This is it, I think. I looked at Lee Wen, who was sitting by the window. She was looking back at me. She should be focusing on a test. I shook my head and signalled her to go back to a test. Half an hour later, the exam was over. A note had been left from my desk asking me to go to a tutoring room after school. At school, I came to a tutoring room as Lee Wen had asked. I knew many senior students were going through a lot of pressure. There were probably less than 10 students willing to talk about it. Nevertheless, I was thrilled that Lee Wen had come to looking for me. However, she was not there to discuss the press for the exam or going to college. Instead, she asked me about W's abrupt resignation. I was a little unprepared, but I still remembered my promise to him. Made up something on the spot saying that he'd gone travelling abroad. Her eyes lit up when she heard my lie. She asked me a few other questions about schoolwork before she eventually left. She was very polite and nice the whole time. And when we closed the door, I saw her turn and run away so fast her hair was flying behind her. I then saw her from the window running out of school like an innocent and joyful little deer. For a moment I thought I'd just seen my younger self. Took a peek at Miss Yang and she was staring back at me. So startled I almost jumped. I suddenly couldn't understand questions in the exam again. Heck goodness, whatever, I need to finish the exam before worrying about anything else. If I screw this up, I won't be able to go anywhere after school. I left a note. At school, Miss Yang came up into my room tutoring me expected. Anything I can help you with? Well, Miss Yang, do you know why Mr. Wen resigned? She gave me a look. Oh, him. He said he wanted to go travel abroad for a little while. He said he'd come back in about a month. You've been travelling abroad? For a month? Galco will probably be over by then. Still hoping I'd ask for advice about what colleges to apply for. Although, as long as I still see him, it will be okay. Meanwhile, I need to work as hard as I can for one last exam. Okay. We got one more letter.
好想再见他一面。
3 years after school. That's an end of story. That's an end. Does that mean there's a separate plan? There's 2 potential options there which could lead to something else. It could be another letter going down. Like we had over here. Or it could just be like that. We'll find out, I'm sure. Oh well, let's end it here, guys. Thanks for watching, have a wonderful day, and bye-bye.
Super